Danger is a fair price to pay for inspiration. Fashion is not just about aesthetics, but attitude.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Chloe. And fun fact, she is the very first Esper that I leveled up to level 60. She is the very first Esper that I give a Billy Mons and the very first Esper that I invest on. Why? Because when I first started playing this game, I took a look at every single Esper skills, like that's just my habit, and obviously I'm not counting towards the legendary Esper. Like you will get Wukong and Liling like 50-50 chance at the beginning, but because I knew like in the gacha games you will not get that many legendary Espers duplicates, so like I always say, a zero resonance legendary Esper is going to always be weaker than a maximum resonance epic Esper. So that means that when I saw Chloe and her skill sets, I saw that, oh my god, this Esper is going to dominate from the beginning until the end, because of her versatility and also her percentage skill numbers. So let's take a look at her skills. The first skill attacks one enemy 2 times damage per hit, 70% attack. So in total you're gonna deal 140% attack damage, which is 20% higher than the average S1 damage. And also on top of that, each hit has a 50% chance of stealing one buff. So this is going to be important later on Chloe's third skill. And so because the first skill is good, you can use Avatara on her, and every time she trigger her Avatara, she has a chance of stealing the enemy's buff. And hopefully the buff that you steal is something like shield, immunity, invincibility, all those good buffs that prevent you from dying. Now going into the second skill, perform single target attacks 4 times on random enemies. Damage per hit 75% attack. So in total, you're gonna deal 300% attack damage, which is like if you see the average S2 skill damage on a single target DPS skill is 240% attack damage. So this one is if you manage to hit all 4 attacks on a single enemy, you're gonna deal 300% attack damage. And the thing is that here's the thing, like if for an AoE DPS Esper, they usually deal, like for a second ability, deal 70% AoE damage, and when you are hitting 5 enemies, that means in total you're gonna deal 70% to each one of them. So 70 times 5 is 350% attack damage. And the longer you battle, if you kill the enemy, the less enemy there will be on the field. And the less enemy there is, the less damage you deal with your AoE skill damage. Hence why in a longer battle, like at the very beginning, having an AoE DPS Esper is really good, but when there are only like 1 or 2 enemies left, then your AoE damage actually deal very low damage. And as an AoE DPS Esper, you cannot use them to fight against bosses. So why is Chloe really good is because of exactly her random attack damage here. Because when there are multiple enemies, you can use this as an AoE damage, but if there are only 1 enemy left, she still deals the same total amount of damage, only that you hit all of them into a single enemy, and the number is also insanely high. Because as a single target DPS Esper, when you are hitting only 1 enemy, usually the S2 damage is 240% attack damage. She can deal 300% attack damage to a single enemy using her second skill. And on top of that, if the enemy doesn't have any buffs, they gonna get buff blocker for 2 turns, and Chloe's buffs increase by 1 turn duration. And this one is insanely good. Like you can use this for a lot of things. Like if you have Chloe, if you give Chloe invincibility, she gonna have that invincibility last for one turn longer. And then if you give like silver buff, I really love pairing Chloe with Alexa, because you can increase the duration of a silver buff. And for a silver buff like Kiss of the Nightingale here, it makes Chloe almost immortal. So by increasing the duration of the Kiss of the Nightingale, also if you have a chance to go into my Dislyte playlist and actually see my Chloe in action, I a long time ago, when there were no Sachiko, there were no Fengnuxi, I managed to give a multiple Kiss of the Nightingale to my lineup just because of Chloe and Ahmed. Because Chloe increased her duration buff by 1 turn, and Ahmed reduced the cooldown of Alexa's skill. So before Kiss of the Nightingale expired on my Chloe, I can already give this to another Esper, having 2 Kiss of the Nightingale within the same lineup, within the same at the same time. So this one is only the second skill. Now we're going to the third skill. Attacks random enemies 5 times, damage per hit 90% attack. So in total, you gonna deal 450% attack damage in total, and that number will still deal the same to a single enemy. So if you think about it, like if you count this as an AoE damage because it hits 5 enemies, if you hit every single enemy once, that means that you only deal 10% lower damage than an average AoE DPS Esper. But the less enemy there is, you still perform the same compared to an AoE DPS Esper, where they do less damage when there are less enemies. You still do the same total amount of damage no matter how many enemies there are, and each hit steals 2 buffs. So the more buffs the enemy has, you have more chance to stealing this buff. And this buff stealing technique is affected by your accuracy, so giving a little bit of accuracy to Chloe is really good. Like I do recommend going for around like 30% or 40% accuracy on Chloe, because you don't want to sacrifice your DPS, your attack bonus, your critical damage for your accuracy too much. Now on top of that, if you have Chloe at Resonance 6, it will deal pursuit attack damage that deals damage to all enemies by 30% attack. So this one, obviously, like any other AoE damage, the less enemy there is, the less damage you're gonna deal. But that means that if you hit a single enemy, you will deal 450% attack plus 30%. So you're gonna deal 480% attack damage to a single enemy using your third skill. And for every buff Chloe has, damage plus 10%. This is what makes Chloe Chloe, because this is what makes her damage insanely good. So to compare her with similar Esper, I do like to compare her with Gaius. Like Gaius is a legendary Esper that everyone already know very well. He deals insane amount of single target burst damage, and you can also burst like the entire enemy lineup. But the downside to Gaius is that if you hit the same enemy, his damage actually keeps getting decreasing. You know, like for every single damage that you hit against the same enemy, the damage will be reduced by 25% each time. But Chloe is different. Chloe doesn't have that damage reduction to a single enemy. Like another Esper that damage random target is also Lily. Lily also, for every single damage that hits the same enemy, it will get reduced. And there is one more Esper that I like beside Chloe, which is Louis. Louis also is the same, like a similar Esper, but I'm gonna talk about him further in his own video. He also doesn't have damage reduction for hitting the same enemy. But we're gonna talk about Chloe first in this video. So look at this. This is what makes Chloe Chloe. For every buff Chloe has, damage plus 10%, and it doesn't have a limit. So unlike someone like Yukshu, if we go and see Yukshu here, like as if she has at least 5 buffs, her basic ability damage plus 10% up to 50%. So you only have like if you have 12 buffs, the maximum number of buffs that any Esper can have at the same time, you will still only get the benefit of 5 buffs. But Chloe doesn't have a limit on that. So that means that she can have up to 120% damage bonus. So on top of 480% attack, the final damage will be increased by another 120% bonus. And that is insane, you know, and final damage plus 10% too here. And that is insane. You know, so I really love using Chloe even until now when fighting against bosses. Pairing her up with someone like Abigail, someone like Sachiko, every Esper that can give a ton of buffs, and hopefully all those buffs are different buffs. And once Chloe have 12 buffs, her third skill deals more damage than Gaius, even higher damage than Gaius, and that's why Chloe is still an insanely good Esper, even until late game, even until now. And she has a bonus of Captain ability, increases allies accuracy by 30%. This is alright if you do need accuracy, but you do want to use other Esper that preferably increase your attack damage bonus so that Chloe will deal even more damage. So you can see here that I have my Chloe with level 30 Divinate here because I still use her to deal as much damage as possible against bosses, like whether it is in Dislyte Land, in Falsetto Fantasy, in Sentinel Hunt, I still use her even until now. And the Divinate of Chloe, when the bear's HP is full, States of Fantasy's finals damage plus 15%. States of Fantasy is the second skill. It is good, it's a bonus damage. Like, you can rotate really well with Chloe using the third skill and the second skill, and they synergize really well. Because the third skill steals buff, and you also get buffs from all of your allies. And then once you use your second skill, all those buffs that you stole will get increased in duration by 1 turn. So you will have them for a longer time, and then you can still buff again on your first skill, and then you can already use your third skill again and keep stealing buffs again. So most of the time Chloe will have a ton of buffs on herself, which will contribute in damage on her third skill. Now going into ability, like the equipment, she can use any kind of equipment, and that's the best part about her. There is also another best part about her. Like, you can give her War Machine, you can give her Nether, you can give her Wind, you can give her Ocean, you can give her Thunder, you can even give her Tyranny. Because I love giving her a Tyranny set, like, because her skill deal multi-hits. Like, if you hit a single enemy, you hit them 5 times. So obviously you have a lot of chance to actually stun your enemies using your Tyranny set. And another set to make her last longer in battle. War set and Thunder set obviously for damage. And then Wind set, if you do want her to keep on rotating really fast, then you can even give her a Wind set. It doesn't hurt her that much. And Ocean set, you can actually like reset your third ability, so you can keep using your third ability more often, because this is where her biggest damage comes from. So having Ocean set, actually, if you get lucky, can also perform as well as Thunder set. Now and then this one, like Astralis, is also alright, but not really recommended. Like it falls a little bit lower than the other, because you don't really have that much benefit spamming your first skill, or even if you use your third skill and then second skill in the same turn, it is still alright. Like, doing that on the different turn and the same turn is not that much different. And then the Relief set also, she's not someone who wants to spam her first ability. Harmony sets, I do recommend not changing her as a support, and that's it. Now the Mui here, obviously, like I said, Avatara is going to be good for her, but if you need more critical rate, obviously go for the fiery set, and if you need more accuracy, like if you don't want to sacrifice your substats for accuracy, then you can have the recurve set on her. But basically any kind of set is alright. Just aim for as much critical damage as possible on her substats, and you don't need to get the same set for her Mui. Now, going into the advancement, like I said, go get her to level 60 as soon as possible. Like she is, I would say like the developer probably put her in the wrong category. Like she is not exactly an epic Esper. Like I have a lot of Esper that I will say like borderline legendary, like someone like Pritzker is also borderline legendary, but this one is not even a borderline. Like she is literally a legendary Esper, you know, in terms of her percentage number here. So resonance here, the second resonance when HP is 100% critical rate plus 25%. So you can go away with a little bit less critical rate compared to your any other DPS Esper. You can just fully invest on your critical damage, and see, like I said, she gonna deal even higher damage than Gaius. And now on the fourth resonance, heals upon killing an enemy, healing 25% maximum HP. This is exactly the same as the one Gaius has. So I always like to compare her with Gaius, because she and Gaius is probably the only Esper that hit multiple enemies like that. They can deal AoE damage, they can also deal single target damage, and they perform well in both scenario. Now the sixth resonance, we've already talked about this. Now going into her ascension is also alright. The first one increase attack, the second one I would prefer to increase HP, the third one is the one that increase Chloe's buffs duration, and then she get a bonus of HP. At least this gives her a little bit of survivability. The fifth one increase her attack, and the last one increase her critical rate. Like I said, so she get a lot of income for her critical rate from her resonance and ascension. So you can just go crazy on the equipment, on the critical damage for Chloe. Now going into the rival rune, her rival rune is alright. Like they give her a war set and also avatar set. Like I said, any kind of rune is good for her, but yeah, if you do want to use her in PvP, she also performs insanely well in PvP, but because she doesn't have any kind of survivability skill, obviously she gonna die very quickly if not supported by her allies. So it's a little bit different than Gaius is in the case where Gaius can perform really well in PvP, is because the moment he turns into his god mode, he get an insane amount of shield, and that alone will keep Gaius much longer without the support of his allies to survive longer in PvP until he kills the entire enemy lineup. But for Chloe's case, she needs a lot of setup. She kind of like performs similar with Narmer, in which case you do want to buff her as much as you can at the beginning of the turn before she uses her third skill, and to maximize the third skill damage. So obviously you need her allies to move first, give her all sorts of buffs, and hopefully the enemy doesn't dispel all of them. But nowadays it's getting really hard to do that because there are too many Iki users. And Iki, once you get all of your support Esper to cast all of their buffs, Iki will remove all of them, which sucks a lot for Chloe, and hence why she is no longer viable in the current meta. But if you go to triple threat, where there are less chances of you meeting Iki, but it also depends on who your enemy is, like you can still use Chloe if there are no Iki around. And so that is Chloe. So that's it for Chloe, guys. So hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you next time in the next episode. Bye bye.